If you don't know me, hi. I'm Gui. If there's one thing to know about me, it's that I'm a P-pop fan or a fan of Philippine pop. I've been a fan even way before the most popular P-pop groups out there like SB19 or Beanie have pushed through the mainstream and blew up locally and internationally. And one of my old groups of all time is this group called Alamat. Alamat has already established itself in the P-pop scene, being one of the first groups of the modern generation of P-pop, and they're quite known for a lot of things, like their concept of showcasing traditional Philippine culture, being a group that has members that are all multi-ethnic and multilingual, having really attractive and talented members who are also genuinely funny and insane at times. But the most important of all, Alamat is known for their songs. A lot of P-pop fans and non-fans alike have praised Alamat's discography ever since their debut. There's something about the way their songs are written that when you listen to them, they're done in a way that's both catchy and unique at the same time, which is not an easy feat, by the way. Alamat knows how to appeal to the mainstream music landscape while still having a sound that doesn't sound like any other, if that makes sense. A lot of their songs are very addictive, but still remain fresh. I could sing praises about their discography all night long, but that's not exactly why I made this video. For today, I want to focus on two specific songs included in Alamat's discography and talk about the reasons why I have developed a certain hyperfixation on these two songs. The act of hyperfixating on specific songs is not new to me, by the way. Interpreting songs in my own way is something I do a lot of the time too. And if I have to say one more thing to know about me, it's that I have this habit of looking at songs through a queer lens. And by that, I mean, I like listening to love songs and imagining that those songs were written for a queer person or a same-sex relationship, whether that was the real intention of the songwriter or not. And as a Magilio, a fan of Alamat, I do this a lot for their songs too. Love songs are great. Filipinos like listening and making love songs all the goddamn time. But as someone who's queer and a bisexual girl who happens to like girls too, I just relate to songs better when I interpret them in a way that feels more personal and connected to me. Plus, there's already so many songs made by straight people for straight people, so whatever crumbs I get, I take them and treasure them as much as I can. And yes, I know, Alamat is a boy group composed of men who are obviously singing to women in most of their love songs, but we don't always have to take it so literally. That's what interpretations are for us to give our own meanings into others' creations. And I truly believe that even though at surface level, Alamat's love songs might seem like they are for straights, queer people can still find a kinship in them. And queer people have found a place in Alamat's discography. There's a reason why Alamat has a lot of fans who belong in the LGBTQ plus community like me, and the relatability we find in their songs is a huge factor in that. Anyways, all of that aside, everybody buckle up because I'm here to talk about two of Alamat's songs and how, if you listen to them in the way I do, they're the gayest P-pop songs to ever exist. Maharani is the second song from Alamat's first released EP called Pasolong in October of 2022. In the same EP, Alamat had two pre-release singles, Say You Love Me and Ili Ili, while the first song on the tracklist, Aswang, became the title track for the EP. This was a very important release for Alamat at the time because this was their way to solidify the sound that the group was going for in the P-pop industry. And frankly speaking, this one's a no-skip album. All songs from Pasolong are great. Fun fact, I was there during the first showcase for this EP, and from the very beginning, each one of us in the audience loved every single track. But there was something about Maharani that felt different. Aswang is a good song, and it's obvious why they chose it as a title track. It's catchy, dance-heavy, and sultry. The same goes for Say You Love Me. Ili Ili and Hala are so unique and important to me in different ways, and Gayuma is self-composed by the group members, so it has its own place in the hearts of the fans. But Maharani was different. It sounds and feels different. I remember the moment I was sitting in the Pasolong EP showcase. was so hyped up after watching them perform Aswang for the first time, my adrenaline running wild as I waited for the next song to come. Then I remember the lights dimming, the members standing in position, and the sounds of traditional Philippine instruments filling the air. Maharani began playing, and it was unlike anything I've ever heard. I'm not joking when I say that it felt like an out-of-body experience. The song instantly became my favorite, which is wild to say for a group that released an EP full of high-quality tracks. Eventually, Maharani became everyone else's favorites too. Despite not having a music video on its own at the time and remaining to be a B-side next to Aswang, Maharani blew up and reached audiences beyond the group's fans. Even until now, it remains to be Alamat's most streamed song in Spotify. From the song, the lyrics, the dance, it became a hit. You might not be aware of who Alamat is, but there's a good chance you might have heard the song Maharani. A few months later, after the EP release, they released a music video for Maharani that became their second most viewed music video of all time. It also featured an idol from a well-known P-pop girl group, Joanna from Beanie, which in turn resulted in the gathering of views not just from fans of Alamat and the song, but also from fans of Beanie and Joanna. Everyone just loves this song, whether they're a fan of Alamat or not. Maharani had earned its spot to be Alamat's so-called golden child. If you had to introduce Alamat to someone who has no idea about who they are, chances are you'd recommend the song Maharani to them. Then, a year passed by after Pasulong. After promoting all the songs as much as possible, Alamat was set to release their second EP. By November of 2023, Alamat released Isa Puso. Isa Puso, or One Heart in English, became another proof of Alamat's flawless discography. Each song is one banger after banger. It was, again, evidence of Alamat's strength, producing songs that capture the ears of mainstream audiences while still being uniquely Alamat in their sound. In my opinion, Isa Puso seems to be a direct reflection of Pasulong, even though the second EP has 2 more songs compared to Pasulong's 6 tracks. A lot of the songs in Isa Puso felt like they correlate with the previous songs from Pasulong. For example, the song Aswang from Pasulong is about falling in love with a fictional creature in Philippine mythology. An aswang is a horrific monster that is awake during the night and eats people's intestines or whatever. It's like a whole thing. But basically, it's almost like a Halloween horror-like creature in traditional Philippine mythology. And guess what? There is also a song in Isa Puso that kind of takes the same idea as Aswang but uses a different metaphor. The song Multo, which means ghost in English, is about being in love with someone who's not interested anymore in the relationship, so much so that they're acting like a ghost. 2 different songs, very similar ideas. But both are really good tracks, by the way. Another parallel I could find between Pasulong and Isa Puso are the songs Hala and Dong Dong Ay. Both songs contain references to Filipino traditional folk songs and are very patriotic when it comes to the lyrics, and they're also both the last tracks in the album. One more example is Gayuma and Noli. Like I said earlier, Gayuma is a really sultry sounding, self-composed song from Pasulong. Meanwhile, Noli from Isa Puso was also written and produced entirely by the Alamat members, just like Gayuma. And it's also very sultry in the music and lyrics. You get the gist. All these songs are like 2 sides of the same coin in many ways, which makes sense because Isa Puso is almost like a continuation of Pasulong. And that's where our second song comes in. Dayang is the second song from Isa Puso, Alamat's second released EP. When I first heard the song, it felt like having another out-of-body experience. Since I've been a fan of Alamat for around, 2 or 3 years at the point when I first listened to Isa Puso and Dayang, I immediately picked up on the details of why I loved Dayang and why it also became a favorite not just by me, but for many other fans too. There was an article in CNN Philippines listing their top 24 songs of the year, and they included Dayang in that list, saying that Dayang stands out with its authentic expression of commitment and love, set against the gloss and throb of pop perfection. Perhaps it helps that Alamat has mastered the art form of effortlessness and immediacy to the point that they can turn an anthemic jam into something that ascends to stratospheric heights. Dayang is the anchor that both disrupts and panders to conventions. It's a distillation of everything sonically exciting about P-pop in 2023. Basically, what the writer of the article is saying is what I've been praising about Alamat's discography in the beginning of the video. Dayang is the track that felt so uniquely Alamat in all ways. It's catchy but unique. It's addictive but fresh. It's pop but new. And just like all the examples I've mentioned before, Dayang felt like a direct reflection to a previous song from Alamat's first EP. And as you've probably guessed, I'm talking about Maharani. That's right. Somehow, in my own sapphic Delulu brain, I have interpreted and interconnected Maharani and Dayang. To repeat my statement from earlier, these two songs, Maharani and Dayang, are probably the gayest songs to ever exist in P-pop history. Now, before you start doubting me and thinking that I'm going crazy, first, let me explain. So just right after Isa Puso was released, Dayang has always been linked and correlated to Maharani by the fans, even though theoretically they're two different songs, right? Well, there are many reasons why they're being connected, so let's go through them one by one. Number one, composition and production. The most obvious reason why Maharani and Dayang are so intrinsically connected came from the composers of the song themselves. Maharani was composed by Thairo Alfaro, a renowned Filipino composer who is responsible for so many legendary and popular Philippine music. Thairo Alfaro said that he started the song from a beat and built the song around that. After Maharani's release, another composer thought of making another song fitted for Alamat. Sean Cedro has composed for Alamat before, being the man behind the songs Sandigan and Sa Panaginip Na Lang. But after hearing Maharani, he became inspired to write a song from that, eventually creating a demo for Dayang.
Ang nag-inspire sa Dayang is Maharani, which is sinulat ni Sir Tyro, and inspired siya ng Maharani and ng Dayang actually, the song.
So basically, Maharani came first, and it inspired the creation of Dayang. And during the creation of Dayang, it was Sean Cedro who composed and wrote the lyrics of the song, and it was Thairo Alfaro who helped produce the instrumentals and actual music for the track. They both helped Alamat in bringing Dayang to life. And when it comes to the composition of the songs themselves, you can hear how Maharani inspired Dayang. Maharani has the sound of the instrument kulintang, while Dayang has the sound of the gabang instrument. They both have groovy beats filled with kicks and percussion. They're both filled with high-key melodies and wide harmonies in the choruses. As well as like rich sounding string instruments and fire rap verses in the bridges.
Prinsesa, sa aking paningin ay nababalot ng ginito ang seda. Ako'y nabibihag ng iyong mga ngiti na para bang nakatalikala sa selda. Pasensya na hindi naman nalihip, ikaw ang natatanging gusto ko na makapiling. Ang bawat daan ko sa iyo na nakakiling, sana mabigyan ng pagkakataong ibigin. Inuna ko siya bago sarili, pero wala ring nangyari. Tataka bakit bigla na lang siya nawala nang walang pasabi. Nawalan ako ng gana, di na naniwala na meron pa pag-asa. Pero kung kailan di mo inaakala, may isang darating na magbabalik ng yuni.
And both songs have an aura of suaveness and regality in them. Forgive me if I mentioned a wrong term because I'm not too familiar with like technical terms in music, but like I'm sure you get what I'm saying. Now you must be thinking, okay, Gui, sure, Maharani and Dayang are connected, but only because both songs were composed by the same people and the first song technically inspired the second. How does that make it gay? Don't worry, we're getting there. But we can't talk about Alamat without talking about history first. Number 2, song titles and historical references. The word Maharani directly translates to Great Queen. It came from the Sanskrit language and is a title of nobility used to refer to the wife of a Maharaja, which is basically a king in some parts of pre-colonial Philippines. And guess what? Dayang is also a title of nobility. Based on my surface level research about the word, Dayang is used to call a princess of the first degree in many of the Muslim areas in the Philippines. So, Maharani means queen, Dayang means princess. Both songs also reference pre-colonial royalty and Mindanao culture in the Philippines. Already another glaringly obvious connection between the two, but just because one of these songs was an inspiration for the other doesn't mean it needed to have a title that is so similar to the first, right? Number 3, the lyrics and storyline. Now we're heading to the exciting part. Let's dissect the lyrics of Maharani and Dayang. There's a reason why I think these two songs are so interconnected to the point that I think they were actually written to be a proper gay love story of its own. If you listen to the lyrics of both songs properly and think about how to piece them together, it's almost like both songs are talking about each other. Let's start with Maharani. This song is what I call peak lesbian yearning. The whole track is from the perspective of being in love with a person who isn't exactly reciprocating that love, especially because this person is in some sort of toxic relationship. For the sake of explaining this theory properly, let's call the person singing the song Person A. From the first verse alone, the song is saying that the one person A is in love with, who person A calls Maharani, has her eyes closed because no matter how much mistreatment she gets from her toxic partner, she's still not leaving her current relationship.
Nakatabing na naman ang iyong mga mata. May bahaging pero parang ngayon mong pahalata. Sinaktan ka na naman ba niya? Bakit di ka pa nadadala? Ang tulad mo ay tipong hindi basta pinabaliwala. Pero
Person A believes that someone like Maharani, who is a queen in their eyes because Person A literally calls her Maharani, Great Queen, doesn't deserve that treatment at all. Person A believes that Maharani deserves someone who will take care of her and love her unconditionally. So throughout the song, all Person A is doing is describing their love for Maharani and simply pleading for her to choose them instead. And that no matter how many other people want to be with Maharani too, Person A will fight for her no matter what.
Di niya batid ang kanyang sinasayang habang ako dito'y naghihintay lamang. Gaya ng mga ilang tagahanga mong nasa gilid lang. Pangako di ako nahihibang, ikaw ang aking nag-iisang
Maharani, maaari mo mapagbigyan kung sakali pag-ibig mo ay magkamtan.
That is basically like the whole gist of the song's lyrics. Talk about yearning, am I right? Now, let's head to Dayang. Let's call the speaker of the song Person B. This song is also talking about being in love, and most importantly, it's about being saved by the other person, by Dayang. And that's why Person B is in love with her. It tells the feeling of like being stuck in a toxic cycle and finally being set free because of someone new who came to their life. From the start, Person B is singing about how their past relationships were not great. Their love life in the past was dark and never ended well. Not until this new person came into the picture. Until Dayang saved them.
Nauupo Bukas na ng matatnan at para bang naghihintay na lang mahanginan at mawala na ng tuluyan. Nang dahil sa iyong mga kamay, unti-unti akong nabuhay. Iyong tinakpan, butas na gawa ng nakaraan.
After feeling dejected from your past relationship, Person B's hope in finding love is reignited again because of Dayang. She loved them in a way that made Person B believe in love again. Now that I've explained the summary of the two songs' lyrics, let's start connecting them with each other. Because I think Maharani and Dayang are singing to each other. Person A is Dayang singing about Maharani, and Person B is Maharani singing about Dayang. The character of Dayang is singing the song Maharani, and the character of Maharani is singing the song Dayang. Does that make sense? Once we take the context and storylines of each song, there is a whole love story we can figure out between the two. A whole lot of like queer-coded subtext is going on here, I swear to God. And to explain that first, queer coding, or saying that something is queer coded, is the act of attributing stereotypically queer traits without explicitly stating gender or sexual identity. And because in both songs, Alamat never really explicitly stated the gender of who is singing the song, so we are free to assume the gender of the speaker in each song. In the first song, Person A, Dayang, shows how she has always been in love with Maharani. So this character probably has known Maharani for quite a while now. She wants Maharani to leave her current toxic relationship and choose her instead. In the pre-chorus, she also sings about how Maharani has so many suitors or admirers. By the second verse, she's almost challenging Maharani to think about being in a relationship with her, to give it a try. It feels very one-sided and almost like a confession, especially when it comes to the bridge.
Panahon na sayang, pag pinaglalaban ng hindi ka naman kayang ipaglaban. Kaya sa akin ka na nga lang, ipinapangako ko ang puso ko'y magiging sa'yo lamang.
Also, the line, "Sorry, it's no longer a secret,"
Pasensya na hindi na manalihip, ikaw ang natatanging gusto ko na makapiling. Ang bawat daan ko sa iyo na nakakiling, sana mabigyan ng pagkakataong ibigin.
is so queer-coded. Yes, heterosexual people keep their feelings secret all the time, but there's something different about how queer people keep their feelings as a secret. Because of the expectation of the norms, queer people can't confess as freely as straight people do. And to say in the song explicitly that Person A has been keeping all these pent-up feelings and yearning a secret this whole time is just another evidence that Person A is a lesbian, I think. Not to mention, there's also the line,
Tabing malabing nais ng isigaw Kung sakaling papalarin ay maging ako't ikaw.
the subtext in this is so strong because it solidifies the star-crossed lovers concept they're taking with this. Person A is saying that it isn't easy to confess her feelings for Maharani, that her lips are shut even though she wants to shout that they're meant to be together if fate allows. And when you're a lesbian who's in love with another woman, who's in a relationship with a man, it would be hard to think that you are fated to her. It would be hard to confess, and it would feel like you have to beg for fate to let her choose you. To make this even gayer and more painfully relatable, let's focus on this one line from Maharani.
Lakambini, ako na lang iyong lakan.
The usage of the word lakan, or king, probably implies to some that the speaker of the song is a man, and sure, that makes sense too because Alamat is a boy group after all, and boy groups sing love songs about women all the time. But let's try changing that perspective. If we take all the context I've mentioned about Maharani being sung by a character who's a woman, the whole narrative makes even much more sense. Again, we're queer coding here, so we're here to interpret the lyrics through a queer lens, and more specifically, through the context of a sapphic or lesbian love story. A lot of the time, queer people have had many insecurities that arise within them once they've fallen in love with someone who is the same sex as them but is in a relationship with another gender. By that I mean, for example, a lot of gay men fall for straight men before they realize that the men they've fallen for are in relationships with women, and it is almost a certainty that they're not gay. If you're queer, you must have experienced at least once in your lifetime falling for someone who's straight, and it's not exactly a happy experience. That's where the whole gay yearning concept comes from. The insecurity comes from the idea that it would have been possible that this person they're in love with would love them back if it wasn't for the fact that they're the same gender. Being gay and falling for someone who is in a heterosexual relationship makes you insecure about your own gender and makes you think, oh, I wish I was a boy so she would like me back, or if I wasn't a girl, she would accept my feelings. And so going back to Maharani, the line, "Ako na lang ang iyong lakhan," or "Let me be your king," is almost another version of that inherent queer insecurity. Imagine a woman singing this line with all the feelings of repressed queer emotions. It's like person A is so desperate for Maharani to love her back that she wishes she was a king, a man, just so she could be with Maharani. In a world where the normal relationship is between a man and a woman, it leaves person A a hopeless wish to be a man instead of a woman in love with another woman. It makes that one line so much more raw and painful. But the gay experience, as I like to call it, isn't just all hurt and sadness and pain. There's also joy and happiness and passion that comes with being gay. And I think the painful yearning with the song Maharani contrasts with the feeling of euphoria that is in the song Dayang. A lot of gay people experienced being in a heterosexual relationship first, before or during realizing that they're gay. Sometimes these relationships would be long and difficult. There are many cases in history where queer people literally get married to the opposite sex and suffer a long, loveless marriage, all for the sake of conforming to the heteronormative expectations of society. But there are also cases when these people finally accepts their identity as someone who's queer and decides to finally seek love that's right for them. And once they're out of this toxic, suffocating box, they feel freer and more liberated once they're finally in a relationship with the same gender. Coincidentally, that's the feeling of the song Dayang. While the song Maharani is so thick with yearning and pining and one-sided longing, the song Dayang feels so blissful and more reassured. And if we continue with the storyline we're drawing here, that the song Dayang is Maharani singing, then it makes sense that she feels blissful and reassured once she's out of the toxic relationship she was previously in and finally with a woman who has pined and longed for her this whole time. Maharani is literally replying to Dayang in the song. In the first song, Dayang is asking Maharani to try loving her. In the second song, Maharani explicitly states that she is finally choosing her. In the first song, Dayang talks about how Maharani doesn't deserve the mistreatment she's getting and how she deserves so much better. And in the second song, Maharani is saying that the pain she got from her past relationship has been forgotten because she's finally happy with Dayang, who is treating her better than any of her past relationships had. So in summary, Dayang has been in love with Maharani for so long, but Maharani was in a toxic relationship with a man. Soon enough, Maharani breaks up with this man and is saved by Dayang. In the song Maharani, Dayang begs to be chosen. And in the song Dayang, Maharani finally chooses her. It's interesting to have two songs from albums released one after the other and finding a strong connection between them. I think it's so cool that Alamat, for some reason, accidentally created a hidden lesbian love story living within the poetic lyrics and music of these two beloved songs. It helps further explain why these two songs resonate deeply with fans and non-fans alike, and why Maharani and Dayang became immediate favorites by many. To have these deep and complicated feelings be told beautifully through song is a special thing to experience, and not many people can easily pull it off the way Alamat did through these songs. This gay love story between two personified characters from the perspective of two different songs seems so unlikely to be plausible at first glance, but for me it just makes so much more sense that way. And I think that's what's valuable about it more than anything else. Sure, we can easily dismiss songs like these to be your typical pop track about love to appeal to the general audience, but it feels more fulfilling to find something deeper and more worthwhile beyond the catchy melody and the cool dance moves, to find a unique storyline from subtext and from reflecting lyrics. It makes the experience of listening to these songs so much more different and more satisfying. That's really all I can say about my whole Maharani and Dayang love story theory. I have no idea if people are going to watch this or if this would even make sense, but I do hope everything I said adds up somehow. I'm also curious to know what you interpret the songs to be, like your own perspective and the message of those two songs. What I just told you is my own interpretation after all, and it might be different from yours. Every perspective is valid. Before I end this video, I just want to say that everyone is free to interpret songs in any way they want to. Music is art, and the purpose of art is to give us the freedom of self-expression, as well as giving that same freedom for the audience to interpret it in their own way. We use art to make sense of reality or make stories that people will be able to relate to with their own specific experiences. We empathize through art. So I'm really happy that I get to relate to Alamat's art in this way, because it makes their music even more personal for me. That's the reason why I'm so attached to Maharani and Dayang after all, because I heard these songs and thought about my personal connection to them, to the point that I've made a whole video essay just to prove it to you guys. There might be some people watching this thinking that seems like too much of a stretch, or that I'm just like making up excuses or whatever. But at the end of the day, does it really matter whether my interpretation is the true one or not? Because I think what's more important here is that someone like me is able to listen to a pop song sung by a boy group and get to find something profound within it. And knowing Alamat, a group of artists who has always been so openly supportive of the LGBTQ+ community, especially their queer fans, I'm sure they wouldn't mind learning about this perspective or interpretation of their art. In fact, they would appreciate it, or like at least I would hope so, because like I said before, they have so many queer fans who were able to connect with them and their music because we got to find a kinship in their songs. Of course, it would still be so much better if like someday we get to have even more actual queer love songs that aren't just dependent on subtext or queer coding. But for now, songs like this are also something to appreciate. Queer people are beautiful, and queer love stories are something that's worth telling people about. And I hope that from the way my appreciation for these two songs run deep, other people would also be able to appreciate the queer experience. Because gay people are just like what Dayang is singing about. They persevere until they triumph, and even if they lose, their devotion will remain.